favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Okay, Tommy, would you give a treasury report?
Okay, beginning balance as of November the 1st, 2015 for County General was $1,816,595.45. Revenues for the month were $659,374.24. Disbursements for the month were $455,347.75, resulting in a balance on November 30th, 2015 for County General of $2,020,621.94. Beginning balance as of November 1st, 2015 for County Roads was $800,458.03. Revenues for the month were $259,417.12. Disbursements for the month were $138,365.36, resulting in a balance on November 30th, 2015 of $921,509.79. 1 quarter sales tax revenues for November were $115,208.49. 1% county sales tax revenue for November were $262,304.36. General revenue turnback for November was $14,751.12. Highway revenue turnback for November was $91,726.06. And the 1.5% state highway tax for November was $43,111.19.
Okay, any Quorum Court Committee meetings?
We had a Budget and Finance Committee meeting last Monday night. And we had a budget tonight, resulting from the work that the committee and everybody else in the county has done.
Announcements and presentations. We have some gentlemen here who want to be nominated for the North Arkansas Board of Directors. North Arkansas Regional Medical Center Board of Directors recommendation of Bradley Crawford. Mr. Crawford, are you here? Could you please stand up?
Speech.
Do you have anything you'd like to say, sir?
No.
Mr. Crawford is to serve a full term as General Director on the North Arkansas Regional Medical Center Board of Directors for a term of 6 years, effective January 1st, 2016, and expiring December 31st, 2021.
Having known Mr. Crawford and his family for a long time, it'd be my honor to move that we accept him.
I understand that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. So be it.
very much.
And also we have Steve Shrum. Is Mr. Shrum here?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shrum, who's a medical doctor, and Kathy Clary. Is Kathy here? Also a medical doctor, for appointment as special director for a term of 1 year each, effective January 1st, 2016, and expiring December 31st, 2016.
Do you need a motion?
I think I need a motion.
I have so moved to accept them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. So be it. Thank you for coming. Okay, our next announcement is Miss Carrie Beckton. She's with 360 Engineering, and I informed you guys before on what she was doing here as far as looking at our buildings and stuff and finding a way to lower our utility rates and stuff like that. I apologize. The clerk ran back to the courthouse to get some books for 360 Engineering that she had given me, and I should have had them out before, and I apologize for not handing them out. But I'm going to let Carrie speak, and she also has a representative with her, too.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. Several months ago, Judge Hathaway gave us the opportunity to take a look at the county facilities and see if there were ways that we could make infrastructure improvements that would be funded through energy and operational maintenance savings. At that time, he told us that we would need to find opportunities to make those improvements that would be funded, like I said, through those savings because there was not any money in the budget to pay for those improvements. So we came back with a list. It was a pretty long list.
You need this, Carrie?
No, I don't. It was actually a book much thicker than that. And so we were, sorry, it was. So we revised that list, and we came back with a different offering at the request of the judge. And Joe's going to go over that opportunity that he's going to ask for us to move forward on.
Thank you. My name is Joe Herla.
Thank you, Joe.
And, as Carrie said, basically what we wanted to do this evening is just recap one particular piece of the findings that we had. We initially looked at heating and cooling upgrades at several county facilities, including the courthouse. I guess, unfortunately, you guys are not inefficient enough that the energy savings would pay for those types of improvements. So after visiting with the judge, we reviewed the findings and essentially boiled it down to a single couple of line items that seem to make financial sense. Those two line items, two project components, would be upgrades to the lighting throughout the county-owned facilities. Currently, you have fluorescent lighting like what you see here, a mix of what's called T12 and T8 lighting. I don't want to get overly technical this evening, but some of that technology dates back 20-plus years. Some of it's been in pretty consistent use throughout the late 90s and 2000s. Today, we're upgrading facilities to LED lighting technology, which is lighting that is much more energy efficient, but is also going to provide a significant amount of maintenance savings and last for a period of time that in your facility is likely to be 25-plus years. So we saw that there's a great opportunity for energy savings there and potentially pay for itself. We also have the opportunity to obtain some utility incentives to help fund that project. So it's not certainly all county dollars that would pay for that. The other piece in some very limited applications would be building automation controls. You see the thermostat on the wall, actually behind the judge. That thermostat is just a standard thermostat or programmable thermostat. We can utilize internet-enabled thermostats that let us shut buildings off during occupied hours. It's something that has a quick payback, a relatively low cost, and can save tax dollars very quickly. So our role in that project is to be the engineer that designs it, and then to identify subcontractors. We try to utilize local subcontractors to actually implement the work. So we don't have our own team that's going to implement it. We want to utilize resources locally whenever possible. And then we make sure that they implement that in accordance with our specifications. So we'll identify what the appropriate lighting is, what the required warranties, et cetera, are, and then oversee that construction process. So that's a quick synopsis of what we recommend doing. This is where those books would be handy, and so I'm going to try and walk you through. But essentially, we also bring to the opportunity to finance the cost of upgrades. We don't do that financing. Again, we're going to work with local lenders to put that financing in place. And the goal is that rather than having to come up with the estimated $350,000 to $400,000 to do those upgrades up front, you're able to utilize the energy savings, which equates to about $30,000 annually to pay off the cost of making the upgrade. So in the cash flow scenario that we've put together and discussed with Judge Hathaway, you're able to pay off the cost of those improvements over a period of time of 15 years, where you're using $30,000 a year in savings. Over those 15 years, you have a positive cash flow every year. So the energy savings that you generate each year, which are guaranteed energy savings, are in excess of the annual payment. So you at no point have to identify additional dollars that you're not currently spending in order to implement the project. So from day one, you're able to have a positive cash flow, put more money in the budget than you're currently spending, and implement those upgrades. After the project's paid off, again, the equipment that we're putting in this case, we would expect to have another 10 years worth of service life. So it's not, you're not buying a car and financing over 10 years and then having to turn around and sell. You have a period of time afterwards where it's paid off and you're reaping the full benefit of those energy savings. So I would certainly welcome any questions that you might have.
What's your technical background?
We're an engineering firm.
You?
Me personally,
Yes.
I am actually I work on the business side. So I'm the one that would be to answer any finance-related questions this evening. We did have engineers, professionally licensed engineers, that conducted this audit. But I personally I'm not an engineer, but most of our staff is.
What is your background?
I have a business degree. Yes, ma'am.
The $300,000 that you mentioned, is that taking into consideration any rebates or or would that be included in the $300,000?
That is included in that estimate. That's a very good question. We estimated at this point there's approximately $25,000 in rebates available, and that is included in that cost estimate. So that is reflective of after you have received those rebates, what we would expect that cost to be. The financed amount, essentially.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So we're to understand that there is no cost to the county as far as new money coming out of the budget. By the time this is financed, and there will be a savings every year, a guaranteed savings.
That's right. We guarantee the energy savings, so we will be responsible for ensuring that every dollar of that is accounted for. If there is a shortfall of $1,000, and we're guaranteeing that savings over a 15-year period in this instance, then you would receive a check for $1,000 each year for 15 years. Yes, sir.
Are there any neighboring counties or somebody that has done this and has a history that we can talk to?
Yeah, we're currently working with Pulaski County. I believe, Carrie, you may have, I know we're working with Jacksonville, the city of Jacksonville right now on a similar project.
So in performance contracting, there's not currently a county in Arkansas that has done it, but Pulaski County is in the process of moving forward with one. There's quite a few cities, universities that have done it, but in regards to counties, Pulaski County, and then we're working with Boone County. So if you want to beat them, you're going to have to hurry because they're going to make a selection in January. So.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Take this room, for example. What would you do to this room to make it more efficient?
This room, as all of you sit here, you're not going to see anything different. The only thing you would see different is when your treasurer gives you the budget information. You're going to have saved energy. Well, this one has a burnt out light. It wouldn't have that anymore. But in general, you're going to have everything looking very similar. We're going to replace the existing lamps, take those out. We'll actually remove the ballasts as well. Each of these lamps is driven by a ballast. Depending on if they're T12 or T8, they have either a magnetic or electronic ballast. Those are removed, and the new LED lights don't require a ballast. But from where all of you sit, other than more consistent light levels by removing outdated failed lamps and different colors of lamps that you might have, is really going to look the same. So it's really a project that's driven by energy savings.
So you would do away with the fluorescent tubes and put LED in here.
That's exactly right.
That would require replacing the entire light fixture.
The fixture itself, this 2x4 recessed fixture, would still be there. The LEDs that we would be installing would actually be 4-foot linear LED tubes. So the fixture itself is going to be the
Are
same.
you talking about increasing the lumens in this room?
This room in particular, and that's actually a very good question. We will, in each space in which we're doing the retrofits, we'll identify the optimal light levels. It's called IES, International Illuminating Engineering Society standards for what the light level should be. This room in particular is a little bit, I was going to say dim, I don't want to insult anyone. It's a little underlit. So we would want to raise the light levels in here slightly. But in general, it's not that every space is going to be open. Sorry, I'm a little dry. So this room in particular, you would see light levels increase slightly.
So you're going to increase the light level and save us X amount of money.
Exactly right. Again, not every single space is going to have light levels go up. Many of your spaces are already lit appropriately, so we'll just match those light levels in many cases.
Have you looked at every building we have, Joe? I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we surveyed every building. Now, the next phase, and Joe will probably talk about the investment grade audit, we would actually do a bulb count.
Right.
But we have actually, with the engineers, when we came by several months ago, we have been in every facility, including the jail.
Right. At this point, these are cost estimates based on that initial survey. And our next step, yes, sir.
I was just wondering about the light spectrum. Is it going to be the same white light, or is it going to be yellower? I don't know. What is that?
color tint.
Yeah, you can get a different color rendering, and in general, you might notice you even have a little bit of slightly different ones. There's a more white light here in the back. We're going to be consistent throughout, and we'll work with your staff. There's no cost difference. There's no energy savings difference trying to get that specific color. So we just want to make sure we get a color that's appropriate for your staff. And ideally, make it consistent so you don't have kind of that mismatch.
Are these American products that you'll install, or are they foreign?
We're generally going to specify, and that's part of our role is to specify the product, but we're generally going to specify American made.
You're going to specify American made.
Which means we require that our contractors install that. Again, unless the county were to dictate otherwise for any reason, but our general specifications are American made product.
You're going to stay fairly well in the same Kelvin range with the lights.
Right. Yeah, you guys are in a pretty standard range for what you have right now. So we certainly wouldn't expect to change it for any reason. Yes, sir.
5 or 10 years ago, I heard quite a bit about indirect lighting. Do you mess with that any?
We're not architects, so that's normally where they're going to design that indirect lighting.
Maybe I used the wrong term. It's where you either have artificial light or natural light, and it's brought in through tubes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I have had experience with, but it's been 5 or 10 years. I've done this for about 15 years. That was something that looked like it would gain traction, but frankly was never very cost effective to implement. And that's not something we've done in the last at least 5 years, if not further longer.
And using local contractors was something that we discussed, and it's important to us.
Absolutely. And our default position is you have just as high quality contractors to be able to install this as we could bring in from anywhere else. So unless there's some compelling reason, we're going to try and use those local contractors. And the only compelling reason would be if, I don't know anybody in Dallas, but if somebody from Dallas said we can get this done for $20,000 less, frankly, that's an opportunity that we would sit down with you and say, here's our options. Is it worth $20,000 in savings to utilize somebody else? But that's actually a discussion we have the freedom to have. Yes, ma'am.
Is a 10-year ROI pretty standard for this type of project?
This is a pretty typical project in terms of the payback on the lighting.
Are we talking about changing the wiring or the fixtures, or are you going to use the same wiring, the same fixtures, just an illuminating feature that will be changed?
That's right. We're not going to change out the wiring. We're not going to change out the fixtures. So it's going to be new lamps, essentially. And to your question, I think that's a fair question to ask as far as that payback. When I say it's pretty typical, that is true for county-owned facilities that we see it around there. One limitation that exists is that your run hours, if I were to compare it to a hospital, for example, are much shorter.
Right.
You're, generally speaking, we're going to be in the courthouse, for example, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week. Which means if we see a 10-year payback on a hospital, we may see a 3-year payback, a 2-year payback, because those are running 24/7. So depending on the type of facility you have, we're going to see a little bit different payback. For these types of facilities, this is pretty standard.
Now, all this lighting fixtures you're talking about, this is all interior. We're not talking about out on the street.
No street lighting. The only potential exterior lighting would be what we call perimeter lighting, so lighting actually attached to the exterior of the buildings. You do have some metal halide lights
Like
there.
over parking lots and
No, not parking lots. It would be those that maybe illuminate over a door or the side of the courthouse. There's not a lot of those, but there's a few of those that would potentially be included. Again, we have to finalize that scope of work in the next step. Yes, sir.
What is the average cost per fixture to convert that?
Well, that's a great question. I don't have that data with me right now. I'd have to ask our engineers what it was. Part of the reason is it depends on the type of fixture that you have. If it's a 4-foot lamp, if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 lamps within that fixture, there's quite a bit of variation.
So you have 4 lamps.
4 foot or 8 foot? Are there any 8 foots in the county?
Carrie, do you remember that?
I don't remember that offhand. I apologize.
They're primarily 4 feet throughout the county. I would have to get you that answer, and that's something, again, that we would finalize during that bidding process.
Joe,
is there a scrap or resale value to the stuff you'll be taking out?
Good question. No, generally there is not. It's most frequently. In fact, there are some. When I say hazardous materials, that sounds really bad. There's minor amounts of mercury in fluorescent lamps, not just yours. Every fluorescent lamp in existence. So, media sources, bear in mind, this is not anything different. So there is actually a disposal cost that typically comes with that. Some customers will essentially just, if anybody in the community has shop lights that they'd like to just stock up and have some extras, give them away and make that a public offering. But in terms of a salvage value, that's really non-existent.
Joe, I think that what we're really interested in is the cost savings and the no cost up front to the county. No extra money out of our budget and stuff like that. I think it's kind of a no-brainer that we do something like this because it's all about saving energy and saving money. So I would like to go ahead with this.
I think a suggestion. Let them do a building, take a building, and let's take a look at what they do before we make the final
Well, I already
decision.
know what they do, Frank. We did it up at our shop up there, and I'd be happy to take you up there to our road department shop. It cut our lighting in half. We was able to put these LED lights
So we've
up.
got evidence of it actually working.
We sure do. We sure do. You can ask I got one of my mechanics here, or two of them here. They can tell you the difference. It's actually cut our lighting in half.
Will they employ local people to do the manual labor?
That's what we talked about, yes, sir.
Yes.
So we're talking about some increase in salary.
Well, I don't know about increasing salary, but no.
Well,
We won't use our
employees, let's put it that
we
way.
won't use our employees to do it. No, because
But the town of Harrison will hire some people to do this physical work.
right.
Yes.
They will do the contracts of our choice.
And they'll be
Contract
paying
people of our
taxes.
choice. Pardon?
And they'll be paying tax dollars.
Exactly. Yes.
So we do have a few.
For that many years.
Yes.
It's up to them.
You can, and the reason is that there is there's a specific statute that's called the performance contracting legislation, and that allows for an exception where normally you couldn't finance vehicles over 15 years, but for energy-related facility improvements specifically, it does allow you to do that when they pay for themselves. It actually allows you to go. What's the total number of years?
It's 20 years is what they allow you to go to.
But we're still talking 10, right?
The payback we expect is 10. We were showing us a 15-year financing, simply because when you include some financing costs, current rates are probably under 3%. But with that, in order for it to be positive cash flow, it would stretch out a little bit farther. Now, what you do have the opportunity to do, and there's no reason to make this decision tonight, would be if you wanted to pay it off in 10 years, would be to make a payment that is maybe $3,000 negative cash flow that first year, and then have it paid off a few years more quickly. That's a decision that you can make at a later date.
Will y'all have an office here in town?
We will have an on-site construction manager that will be here, but we won't need to develop an office for this. We have an office in Little Rock.
So if we have any questions, we'll have to go to the job site.
We'll have a construction manager that will be here that will have weekly meetings with your staff to make sure that we answer those questions. But as far as an office, the length of time it'll take to do the project will be about 1 month. So it's not going to be an extended period of construction. It'll turn around pretty quickly. Most frequently, again, depending on the capabilities of the contractor.
But you will be local enough to where we can have contact and
Do
communication
you need a
with
motion,
you
Judge Appleby?
Absolutely.
8 to 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll be available.
I know. Here's the thing. I don't think that I have to go to the Quorum Court to do this, but I want to.
So are you looking for a motion?
I am.
I move that we proceed with this.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We've got a couple of questions in the audience, and then I'd like just a couple, and then I'd like to close this.
You're taking out the ballasts that currently operate this.
Correct.
Does this have a solid state power supply that goes with it, or does it draw the current directly from the grid? How is it powered?
You mean each individual fixture?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not an engineer, and that's getting into an electrical engineering type of question that I have to talk to our
Well,
engineers. It's
the reason I'm asking,
uh-huh.
any solid state unit, whatever it is susceptible to EMP.
Okay.
What we've got here now is not.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is this EMP affected by EMP? That's the question. Because if we have an EMP, which Congress is really upset about now, even with generators, we wouldn't have any lights if it's not hardened for an EMP.
Right. You're going to have a few ballasts that are emergency ballasts throughout this facility, or through any of your facilities, and we have to work with those specifically, but the vast majority are not emergency type ballasts. They're standard hardwired through the electrical system.
But you don't know whether it's hardened for EMP.
No, I can't. Again, I apologize. I'm not prepared to answer that question.
Find out for us.
Yeah, well,
I'll get a hold of you and you can get us an answer for that.
thank you.
In the library.
And yes, did you
Question.
address her
Which
question?
I think I addressed it.
I think she's addressed it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Look forward to working with you and seeing you in a few months.
Okay. That's it for announcements and presentations, new business. We have an appropriation ordinance for APRS for the county jail reimbursement from the state election commission, the transaction within Judge Webb's budget, and the transaction within the jail maintenance budget. Submitted by Justice Robert Meeks.
Your Honor, I move that we read this by title only because we've already discussed this, I think, in the Budget Finance Committee meeting.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Boone, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending an annual budget for Boone County for the fiscal year 2015, and authorizing the county judge to administer such budget and for other purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Boone County, Arkansas.
Any discussion? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Hey, Chris, we're going to do roll call.
I move to
Now we do roll call.
Robert Meek,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes.
Ralph Quinn,
Yes.
James Wagner,
Yes.
David Thompson.
Yes.
Kara Staton. Yes. Frank Hampson,
Yes.
Dan Roberts,
Yes.
Brian Snavely,
Yes.
Kathy Valentine,
Yes.
Sam Tinsley.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Our second ordinance, an appropriation ordinance, being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Boone, State of Arkansas. An ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to establish the annual operating budget for calendar year 2016 and for other purposes. Justice Robert Meeks submitted this.
I move, Your Honor, that we read this by first page.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Same sign. Okay.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Boone, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to establish the annual operating budget for the calendar year 2016 and for other purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Boone County, Arkansas. Section 1. Annual budget adopted by reference. The annual budget for calendar year 2016 identified as 2016 annual budget, Boone County, Arkansas, dated January 1, 2016, is hereby adopted by reference and made a part hereof as set out herein word for word. A copy of said budget shall be filed in the office of the county clerk and shall be available for inspection and copied by any person during normal hours. Section 2, non-restricted expenditure categories. Expenditure funds. The expenditure of funds appropriated by this ordinance shall not be restricted to the line item expenditure codes comprising of the four major categories of expenditures: personal services, supplies, other services and charges, and capital outlays, but shall be restricted to office departmental expenditures within the above enumerated four major categories, except for funds appropriated for personnel salaries and wages and related employee benefits. Personnel expenditures shall not exceed the dollar amount, number of employees, and salary or wage rate specified in the annual budget or amendment thereto. Section 3. Expenditures restricted to specified fund. No expenditure of appropriated funds shall be made from any fund other than the fund specified in this ordinance or the amendment thereto. Section 4. Transfers. Any transfers of money between the various funds of the county or between the four major categories of expenditures: personal services, supplies, other services and charges, and capital outlays, shall be made only with prior approval of the Boone County Quorum Court. Transfers to the general fund number 1000 are as follows. From fund number 3006-0102, fixed cost fund $74,111. From fund number 3499-0418, quarter-cent jail sales tax set-aside fund, $1,070,088. Each of the above transfers is effected to fund a portion of the department in the general fund to which they are transferred, with the exception of 3499-0418 jail sales tax set-aside fund, which is dedicated to fund the 1000-0418 jail budget and law enforcement. End of page 1. I'm ready to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Judge, I've been on the fence about this. My reservation was simply that if we don't extend the sales tax, we're making it harder. I mean, if we don't extend the sales tax, we're going to survival mode, and this will make it harder. But I've polled the office holders and talked to quite a few of the public, and surprisingly enough, the public wants the people to get a raise. So I'm off the fence on the side of for it.
Yes, Jim.
I oppose moving all that jail sales tax money to the general fund, because we're just going to blow it. It happens every time. So I would like to amend the motion and set that down to where we need it to get by. What would that figure be?
Well, I think that number is what it costs to run the jail.
This number right here.
I believe so.
So we're putting it on the general fund, basically.
No. There's 1.2 something other generated annually by the 0.25%, and 1.07 is being used in the jail. The remainder will be added up and saved in the jail sales tax fund, as I understand it, not transferred anywhere. This is just the amount transferred to the general fund to run the jail fund in the general fund. Dollar for dollar is the way I understand it.
If when this is approved, you would still have sufficient left to operate the jail for approximately 2 years.
I'll reel that back in.
I see what's wrong with the motion.
So you withdraw.
I have a motion. Okay, yes.
If you have a tax dedicated to the jail, I do not understand taking that tax and moving it into the general fund. Is it not administered from the jail sales tax fund?
David,
The jail budget is in the general fund.
Okay.
That's where we've got to put it to run the jail.
Okay. So you're only gonna put in what you received through that tax?
No, we're not going to put it all in. We're going to put in what it costs to run the jail.
Okay, so
That's-
you'll have a surplus that could,
It will stay in the jail
Extend
sales
2
tax
years.
fund. It'll stay in the jail sales tax fund.
okay. And what do you do if the sales tax doesn't pass it?
Well, what would you suggest we do?
Send them somewhere else.
But that's the deal. The jail budget is in the general fund. So this money goes into the jail budget, which is in the general fund.
Okay, this is not like being slipped around and made for salary increases?
Call for you. Can I have a second?
I move to adopt. Has there been a motion to adopt?
Yes. Roll call vote.
Jim Park,
Yes.
Ralph Gwynn,
Yes.
James Wagner,
Yes.
David Thompson,
Yes.
Carrie Staten, no. Frank Hansen,
No.
Dan Roberts,
Yes.
Brian Snavely.
Yes.
Kathy Valentine,
Yes.
Sam Tinsley,
Yes.
Robert Meek.
Yes.
Okay, it passes.
Move to adjourn. Oh, it's a tax.
Lost your way.
Is there any more comments from the public? We had a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
This program is brought to you as a public service of KTKO Channel 8.